Stupid.
Today's podcast is brought to you by itpro.tv. You can go to itpro.tv/ring for a sweet offer. Or you could stay here
For
and watch us. Paul, I have a simple request.
Sure.
And this is for our government. It's a big, simple request.
It's a simple request.
You'll see.
Okay.
If I am getting a letter in the mail from the IRS, it has to say on the outside, "You're not in trouble," on the outside.
Yeah. So we instituted this change at the daycare that my son at the time went to, I guess. My daughter went there too, but I'm trying to remember when this changed. But they would call. You'd see the name of the daycare on the thing, and you're like, oh, God, here we go. The kid has meningitis, whatever.
Yep.
And you're like, hello? And they're like, hey, is Stephanie there? And I'm like, can you just tell me? And she's like, well, I wanted to see if she could bring brownies to the blah, blah, blah. I'm like, listen to me. When you call my house, you tell me everything's okay first, and then you ask me stupid questions.
Yeah.
And then they used to do that. They're like, hey, this is whoever from wherever. Your son or daughter is fine. I just have a question asked. There you go. That's exactly how you make that kind of communication. Yeah, when you're the angel of death,
Yep.
You gotta have a little preface to the conversation.
It would
I'm
be
not here
nice
to take you home.
if that letter just said, "Hey, you're not in trouble."
Listen, this is all going to be in Paul's big book of common sense that I'll write when I'm retired. Like all the stupid bull, baloney that I put up with for my entire life. Like, just, chapter 3, use your signals. Like actually the book could be called Situational Awareness. That's actually what all this boils down to. Be aware of your surroundings. You're not the only person on earth. Think, maybe I could call it the 3 commandments.
The 3 commandments.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird email.
Good morning, by the way.
Yeah, anyways, it's Friday morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning in yet again to another thrilling technical podcast.
Listen, I think it's, look, no one should try to be like me. I'm terrible. You know that.
Oh, we all agree with that.
Everybody knows that. Don't be like me. But that said, I have been alive long enough to have acquired a certain level of common sense,
Would you say a particular set of skills?
Yeah, yes. Well, it's not much in the way of skills, but just look out for others. That's all I'm saying.
Yep. So here we are. It's I don't know. Steam announced something that's interesting, but they have a real rich history of announcing interesting hardware and then doing a whole bunch of not much. But
I was going to say the caveat to this absolutely is let's review the history of Steam's hardware initiatives.
Yeah, so why don't we just do that? So they had this thing that was in the living room, what they called like Big Picture PC or something like that. That was whatever.
I don't remember that one. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Then they came out with the controller that did
just taken over the earth. Yeah, everyone uses it.
And so now they have.
There's more. Was there? Oh, Steam Box was a thing, right?
Steam Box. I think that was part of it that had Big Picture mode or whatever.
Because I remember they had it was like an NVIDIA type Shield thing.
Yeah,
that was
maybe that's it.
And I think that was part of the reason they went with Linux at some point was so they could kind of start making hardware where they didn't have to rely on paying Microsoft $100 a pop because it would be prohibitively expensive or something. But anyway.
And so now they have, which is really confusing if you own a Stream Deck, which is this little magical box over here that I touch to do these switching things. They have this is the Stream Deck. They are announcing the Steam Deck, which is probably the closest thing we'll ever see to, I think, maybe like a true Xbox portable. Like if people are saying, I want an Xbox handheld, this is probably the closest thing you'll ever get.
Yeah. One issue that Microsoft's going to run into with xCloud, which I'm going to continue to call xCloud because I can't remember things, is when you bring console games, which are designed to be played on like a big TV, like 32, 60, 80 inches, whatever it is, down to a phone or even a tablet, you run into these UX issues where the UI was designed literally for these giant screens, high res, 4K graphics, text is unreadable on these things, right? And I think because it was so successful doing this with the UWP, I think Microsoft needs to introduce this concept into the Xbox ecosystem of platform independence and respecting the device that it might be played on. In other words, that it should be able to detect that it's running on xCloud and know the type of device that it's being hit on, and it should tailor the UI not just the game UI, but more specifically the settings and the menus and things that you go through for that device. And this is going to be the problem on the Steam Deck.
Yes.
Because 7-inch screen, and it's not just a 7-inch screen, dude. Your phone has a resolution of some crazy 2K thing. There are 4K resolutions on phones. This is 1280 by 720. I mean, 720p is a low resolution, but I guess the PC games do scale to resolution, of course, and maybe this will slightly help with that. But it's also going to create this really. I think there are going to be UIs that don't fit in it. Even in Windows 11 or Windows 10 today, if you scale the resolution enough, you can run into problems where UI runs off the edge of the screen. This has come up a lot for me recently with the Office Insider program, because every time I install Office, I go into Word, I go to Account, I sign into the Office Insider program, I choose the beta channel, and there's this long dialog box that has multiple links, lots of text, and then at the bottom is an OK and a cancel button, and you have to guess. It's off screen. You're like, okay, what I've discovered is that you revert like a Alt with a Shift tab to go back up, right? You do that twice and you hit OK, and then you get the UAC type prompt that comes up. But anyway, the point being, the resolution and screen size is going to be a problem for this thing. It's a 15-minute way to describe that.
I was just gonna, that was a really, maybe that could be a chapter in your book, The Long Way to Tell a Short Story.
Yes. Please bore the hell out of people so they stop paying attention, and then you make your point and no one heard it. Yeah.
Was it $3.99 for the
or for a really basic one?
Yeah. And then scales on up. I think tops out like $6.50, something like that.
$6.50. And by the way, I just got a little pop up on front of the video that is you asking me if I'm ready to start recording the podcast 10 minutes ago. Everything's working great here in Microsoft land today. I honestly, if this product is viable, I feel like they could support a $1,000 version that had like a full HD display and maybe an 8-inch display and maybe something that got more than 2 hours of battery life. By the way, I don't know if you paid attention to that.
I've got an even better idea. What if they had a, I don't know, 1080p display, maybe make it like 13.1 inches. They could attach a keyboard to it with USB ports, and then you could connect a mouse. And wow, that would, I mean, you could game anything. You could even browse the web.
The product you described is nonsense, and that will never be.
I don't know what I was thinking.
I thought of that.
I apologize to our listeners.
Maybe you could even save storage space by streaming games to that device over the cloud.
No, that's nonsense. Like, we don't have the bandwidth, the latency.
Well, no, it's better than that. You would have to pay every month for it. It's
that's
genius. Crazy. I know.
Wow, that would be the end of gaming. They could call it like X gaming, because that would be the end of it.
Yep. Anyway, look, this product is not for me. I'm interested that they made it. I hope that it succeeds. I think the notion of choice is good. There's a the spectrum of device types and screen sizes and services and stores and whatever, and we should all choose the one that works for us. So.
Yeah. And if you're looking to choose a skills development platform, you should check out itpro.tv. You can go to itpro.tv/ring for a special offer for First Ring Daily listeners. This is an upskilling platform. There is a global skills gap going on right now, especially as everybody starts to migrate back to the office. Hybrid IT is coming. It is here, and it is only getting more entrenched in the world. You can check out itpro.tv. They have more than 5,800 plus hours of training that feels more like a conversation and less than like just sitting there getting taught. You can go to itpro.tv/ring or check out the links in the description.
Did you just use the words upskilling?
Upskilling, yeah. Like, this would be great for your book. You could have a chapter called Upskilling. Goes, Paul didn't know something.
Upskilling and other words that are not words. Except I would use the word learnings and other words that are not words. If you
put an S on it, then that's the truth. The S is actually from Windows 10 S. That's why it's called learnings. That's where they got the S from.
Oh, that's good. Yes.
So, anyways, we've got
learnings. How to turn a verb into a noun.
Add an S, and no one will use it.
Add an S and pray for the best.
What else? So Paul and I were just talking about this right before the podcast. There's a new build of Windows out that came out yesterday.
Windows 11.
Yeah, Windows 11. If you don't mind not having rounded corners on some like very minor things, you might want to pass on this one, at least personally. The last build was more stable for me than this release. So
yeah, I mean, I've been having file system file system. I guess it is file system. I'm going to call them explorer.exe/file explorer problems since the beginning of Windows 11. And this build has had a couple. Well, no, and by the way, one of the other permutations of that is the Alt Tab thing. Sometimes Alt Tab sticks. It's kind of a weird thing. It's hard to explain, but you Alt Tab, you find the window you want, you let go, and the Alt Tab interface stays up. And it's like, seriously. So that's a little weird. There's also a bug from the very beginning that I keep waiting for them to fix, which is you should be able to drag a file down to an open window, like the icon for an open application on the taskbar, cause that window to open, and then drop it in, and then you've opened it in that app. But that has never worked in Windows 11, and that bedevils me every day. The one I'm getting today, and I'm not going to do it right now because it's so consistent, it's killing me, is there's a little one down in the corner of what used to be Action Center next to the clock, meaning I have a notification, which I guess is Notification Center now, whatever they're calling it. And when I click the clock, which should bring up the notifications, Explorer briefly, I don't know what to call it. It's not really, I guess it's a crash. It kind of pauses. The taskbar goes completely blank. It flashes, and then all the taskbar buttons come back. And I literally can't cause notifications to appear that way. The keyboard shortcut does work. If I do Windows key plus N, that works. But anyway, the point is, yes, again, I've beaten to death. There are definitely more problems in this build than in the previous builds, and the problems from the previous builds persist. So those first two things I mentioned have been the case since the beginning. They've not been fixed in this build, and they've added a new one. So progress. Abel will explain why this is all exactly the way Microsoft intended it to be, so it's fine.
So in the past 3 weeks, Microsoft has now announced 3 versions of Windows. Windows 365, Windows 11, and now 21H2.
Yeah. And if you thought 21H1 was a huge release, wait till you catch the list of new features in 21H2. Oh my God, we don't have enough time to go through them all. Oh wait, I'm done. There are none.
So I have we'll call it speculation, shooting from the hip, as that should be a chapter in your book too. How to make a career from shooting from. Anyways,
go along, Brad Sam story.
So Microsoft has not commented or said anything about LTSC.
Is that true still?
For Windows 11? I don't think so. I haven't heard anything.
Okay. Right. They've kind of divided by the SKUs. They've talked about support for SKUs, but not
if there's that long term.
So
I'm wondering if Windows 10 is going to be that.
For at least for the short term or something.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. When you first started this conversation, I thought you were going to say something along the lines of, we knew 21H2 was coming, right? Like this is not a surprise. The way they're testing it is a bit of a surprise, but yeah, who cares? Windows 11, the first version, is also 21H2.
Yeah.
And one of the questions I have is how they do this versioning thing going forward. Now, Windows 11 is only going to come out with one version each year. So does that mean that the second version of Windows 11, even though they can add new features, of course, but next year at this time, will we be testing something called Windows 11 2122 H2? Probably, right? That they would keep the names consistent between the two products?
How long have you been following Microsoft? They're going to keep. You think? No, I don't know. I don't know if they'll keep the names consistent, but I mean, it would.
Well, now they are, right? I mean, well, I'm just saying. So I'm the questions anyway. Where I was going with this is we don't know how or if Microsoft is going to support Windows 10 with new versions after this year, right?
Yeah, that's a big unknown.
My suspicion is they'll keep doing what they're doing now. They'll do whatever they call it, the enablement package, cumulative update, baloney. Very little in the way of new features. There'll be a 22H1, a 22H2, a 23H1, as we go. These will be completely non-essential. Well, they'll be essential in the sense that you have to get them to keep getting support, I guess. But they're not, nothing important. Like Microsoft's not going to waste engineering resources on Windows 10. It's going to be all Windows 11 for new stuff, right? The good new stuff. But what about Windows 11? I mean, one of the things they did say was because 21H2, the Windows 10 version, is a H2 release, it's entitled to longer periods of support. And that's the way that things have been now for the past, 3 years-ish. Windows 11 only comes out in H2 form. So does that mean that they all get that same level of support?
I mean, these are
maybe
things we don't know.
I know. This is all stuff, it's all kind of picky and detail-y stuff, but it's the type of stuff, for you and me, it doesn't super matter, other than the fact that we write about Windows and want to be able to communicate it. But this is the type of thing I think that matters most to their commercial customers, and nothing. I mean, it's kind of weird how quiet they are on these really important details.
Yeah, things that matter.
I think.
Yeah, well, it is Friday, and Friday matters.
Oh, is it Friday?
It is, thank goodness.
Good.
Yep.
Although this week was shorter than last week, by the way.
Yes. Oh, absolutely did.
The weird quality of time where it's elastic. I mean, last week took about a month, and this week went by pretty quick.
Yep. Well, if you want to make your weekend go by even faster, you can get on over to itpro.tv/ring and do some free trial offers and education and upskilling to make Paul happy.
Did you say education?
Mm-hmm.
See, that's not a word.